This reading is for Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising signs. All right, so I pulled these 6 cards for you, Virgos. From the top, we have the 8 of Cups, and then the 10 of Cups. And then in the middle row, the Hierophant and the 9 of Cups. And then at the bottom, the 8 of Wands and the Hermit. So the first thing I'll say is that there's a lot of Cups energy. And I'm also picking up on a lot of the yellows, the gold, the green and blue in these cards. I'm sensing that there is a lot to do with your values and traditional beliefs and how you're using those in your life, or how you perceive things that you've experienced throughout life, again, as values, and maybe reassessing some of those things. So that's the initial energy that I'm getting, and I do sense that from those colors on an intuitive level. The card that stands out in terms of color really is the Hermit, and in this case it's quite colorless, and I feel that it's about going within, because it is very much about going within for illumination, not necessarily having to be alone or spend time alone, but of course a lot of times we need quiet time and space to have those realizations. So that's really what that's about. And in this case, it feels like that reassessing taking place in a space where you can clear your thoughts, but not just clear your thoughts in your mind, but also clear away what your perceived values are. And I don't mean to abandon everything that you consider a value. I think that could be dangerous on a certain level, but there are certain ones, it feels like, with the Hierophant coming up, it does seem like some things that you may feel are traditional that you may want to do away with, or maybe even bring in. It could be that you've in the past done away with something that you consider traditional, and it may be that it would work for you in your life now. So in general, it could go either way, but spending some time to really go within, to decide, to get to know your values a little bit more, and to keep ones that you feel are worth keeping, and to do away with ones that you don't. Now, further with that, it feels like this is because of transitions that are happening, both with the 8 of Wands, which could be a move, it could be communication coming through from someone. I am sensing, though, someone transitioning into a new job, possibly even in a new city or country, and that also, for a lot of you, it feels like aligning with transitions having to do with a relationship or a family situation. So not necessarily leaving a relationship, though it could be for some of you. We have the 8 of Cups at the top, facing essentially this 10 of Cups. That's an interesting combination, especially with seeing the figure walking towards the 10 of Cups, because it does feel like leaving a situation, and for some it could be leaving a relationship. If that's the case, it feels like there's something much more fulfilling in the future with both the 9 of Cups and the 10 of Cups there. But it does feel, for probably more of you, I'm sensing that you're leaving a place, probably, or a setup. So it could be like you've been a student and now you're transitioning into a new job, and that's impacting your family in a way. It does feel like it's positive, like it will be very fulfilling, emotionally, and probably even financially. It does feel like a good step for you, but it feels like one of those endings that is tricky, difficult, just because, for example, if you've been a student, it feels like maybe you've been a student for a while, maybe you're completing a PhD or something like that, and moving more into this family life, if you have a family, or just the career focused life. So not all of you will have families or even be married, but I do feel like a group of you are making this transition, and it is impacting a family setup. So a relationship that you have, and possibly even a situation with children. And it's for especially those of you in that type of situation where the values to do with tradition feel like they're coming into play. I'm just sensing that there's even more transitions coming up, like possibly births, possibly rites of passage, and I just feel like you may be grappling in some way with how to handle certain rites of passage. Maybe you're considering doing something in a religious way, like a baptism for a new birth or something like that, and it's not something you believed in the past, or it is, and maybe a partner doesn't believe in that. So, things like that. That's just one example. That does feel like it could be true for someone. Sometimes I just give examples, and it's not necessarily the case. I'm just thinking of examples, but that feels like it could be valid for someone. But it could be something like that for many of you. So the way things are handled traditionally around a rite of passage, or just a transition for you. Like, what does it mean to your family of origin if you're moving, for example, with your new family, your current family, things like that. How you view them, how you want to handle keeping in touch. The Eight of Wands feels like that. It feels like it has to do with communication. So it's not just tradition, but habits, it feels like. So maybe you're someone who is moving and hasn't been good at keeping in touch and is thinking of changing that because you're moving away from family, or vice versa. Maybe you feel like you have always been that person who's kept in touch and maybe are going away and don't want to not cut ties necessarily, but really want your space and want to have maybe higher boundaries, different boundaries, let's say, around communication and things like that. Or for some of you, you're moving back towards family or to a place where you know more people and also want to think about your boundaries there. So these habits, these values could definitely have to do with boundaries as well in terms of communication. So that's a major theme for you. Some transitions, but not just how tricky or difficult they could be in general, like on the emotional, mental level, or even logistical level, but also how you make plans in relation to your values, it feels like. I will say before I wrap up that there is, again, a lot of that cups energy. So I really sense that while you may be leaving something behind, there's a lot of fulfillment moving forward. There's a lot of opportunity for fulfillment. I think you just have to be open to looking at your values and reassessing them. All right, Virgos, thank you. If you have any questions about this general reading or about my services, feel free to email me. Thank you.